So I've done it. I've done it because to be honest, this was worth it. This article alone was worth spending my money on subscribing to the Telegraph to go through this absolute drivel. Now, a lot of you have probably seen, or at least seen the top line of this article of, Brexit is on the brink. The ultra remainers are mobilizing to cancel it. Yes, we are actually going to go through this article. And trust me, this was worth every penny. I am canceling my membership after this to it. But this was worth every single penny of subscribing to the Telegraph because quite frankly, this goes beyond belief. And this shows you the desperation that the Brexiteers are currently in. Like, they are in absolute free fall meltdown mode because they know full well that their Brexit isn't working out quite as well as they had hoped. They know that the idea of Brexit has been turning against people, that the polls are showing that people are regretting their decision for voting for Brexit. And this large coalition that they had constructed to get across the line is now falling to pieces. They cannot summon any Brexit benefits that would, shall we say, enthrall the people. You've got them promising this bonfire of regulations, but a perfect example of this bonfire of regulations has been the sewage scandal and crisis that is currently going on in our waterways and on our beaches. That's not what people voted for Brexit for. Not only that, you've now got Jacob Rees-Mogg going out publicly only just this week and saying the quiet part out loud that as one of the Brexit benefits, the government should now rethink and think, there's certain stuff as a government we should not provide. What do you think, ladies and gentlemen? Services Jacob Rees-Mogg thinks this we should not provide. Again, not something that people voted for in Brexit, because the Brexiteers promised time and time again that they would be using this opportunity to fund Brexit. All this money that gets sent to the EU was going to be instead spent on our public services. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this article just goes to show you how much panic is really going on in the Tory party. We've just done a video today of the realization of a lot of Tories who are realizing they're about to elect Liz Truss, of all people, into such a position of power she is not qualified or even likely to be able to handle, with her fanciful Trussonomics coming ahead, which is going to cause even more problems. And they are now panicking. So we are going to go get into this article. But like I say, down below, there is my one-off donation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, buy me coffee, or there is the YouTube thank you button down below. So if you want to sort of drop me a pound as a thank you for, repayment for bringing you this joy on this, momentous occasion, then, please do feel free to do that. Or there is my Patreon page down below, or there is the YouTube subscription button down below as well, if you'd like to support the channel that way. So without further ado, let's get into this. And also, please do remember to hit that like and share button as well. Spread the news, spread the joy as we go through this. So, and if you are new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. So welcome. So let's get on to this, because this is just, it's dripping it is. So anyway, over we go to the Telegraph with their title, Brexit is on the brink, and the ultra remainers are mobilizing to cancel it. Truss is the Brexiteers' last hope. And if she is the Brexiteers' last hope, well, you are in a worse state than you can believe. If she can't deliver on the benefits of leave, we may end up rejoining. Hallelujah. So, anyway, it begins. Brexiteers, beware. The Remainers are on a roll. They are mobilising as if it were 2019 all over again, convinced that their moment has finally come. Their excitement is palpable. Boris Johnson is finished. The Tories are sliding in the polls, and Britain has been engulfed by a tsunami of crises, all caused or exacerbated by the incompetence and short-termism or stupidity of our ruling classes. You mean the ruling classes that wanted Brexit? Because ultimately, if you look who backed Brexit, it was infinitely far more the elites who you claimed were meant to be sort of backing Remain, but no, they were backing Brexit because they saw the unbridled, ridiculous freedom and stuff that they could get away with, stuff in their wildest dreams they could never do in the EU, like completely get rid of all this regulation. But anyway, let's find out what's going on here. So, the Remainers' strategy is twofold. They are attempting to blame Brexit for almost all of Britain's myriad difficulties. Brexit isn't fully to blame for all our current difficulties, but it is adding a myriad of pressure on many of them, some of them directly caused because of Brexit. And they are claiming that the pain is self-evident and worse in the UK or Brexit Britain than it is in Europe. And that is true. Look at inflation. We are the worst of all the G7. We had just a couple of days ago, Adam Poston, one of the top people in, or former top people in the Bank of England, came out and said, look, Brexit is exacerbating and putting a pedal on the rise of inflation. Anyway, he continues. And he's even sort of portraying problems that are entirely unrelated to the European question as a vote leave broken promise. Such as, I'm sure you'll be, want to elaborate on that maybe. Anyway, he continues saying some Remainers are redefining themselves as outsiders, rebels, and supporters of windfall taxes and nationalisation, seeking to depict Brexiteers as an elite responsible for the energy and water crisis. But you are responsible for that. The Tory right wing pushed for nothing but Brexit, even before going all the way back, since we joined. That's where the home of Euroscepticism was, on the right. It was your party. You haven't, this idea of morphing hasn't changed. We were never, the outsiders. It was the establishment in the Tory party that pushed for Brexit. Anyway, he continues. So, as the political climate shifts leftwards, they hope the anti-capitalist mud will stick, paving the way for a Labour government at least privately sympathetic to the Remain cause. To the Rejoin cause. This is the best part. The propaganda is sickening, but some, including the ordinary voices in focus groups, are falling for it. No, because you know why? Because your promises aren't coming true. The promises that Leave Vote said that we won't have higher food prices. Well, we've got higher food prices. Brexit is partly to blame because we've got to import a lot more food than we used to because we've had sort of the pig crisis. That is ultimately been caused by Brexit. There's so much stuff. Again, it's unbelievable. But yeah, not surprising that this is now filtering into focus groups and people are going, well, actually, all this myriad promises that they promised aren't coming to pass. And people remember these promises you made because you were stupid enough to televise them, splash it on a side of the bus, and, make huge statements about how wonderful life would be outside the EU. And you look at the UK, compare them to any other European country, inflation is not as bad as it is in any other G7 country, compared to also other those G7 countries that are in Europe. Food prices are lower in Europe than they are here in the UK. You can just go on and on and on. Anyway, so inflation. Didn't Brexiteers promise that prices would fall? They did. And real wages would rise? They did. The Remainers repeat over and over again, yes, because that is what you promised. A, quote, bad faith and out of context argument. What? That is not in bad faith, and it is not out of context. Brexiteers promised time and time again prices would fall and that wages would rise. The imploding NHS. What about the £350 million a week, they cry? Where is that £350 million a week, guys? You haven't delivered on it. Ignoring COVID, the health system's gross mismanagement. Who mismanaged that health system? Oh, that's right. It was the Tories. It was the Conservatives who have mismanaged the health system. And the actual massive increase in funding. What increase in funding? Oh, yes, you've increased the funding, but not only have you not kept up with the rise in the need of NHS because of our aging population, we now have less doctors, less nurses because of Brexit, because they've all gone back to Europe. You have made it even harder for us to attract that foreign talent now, making the NHS infinite job even worse. It's laughable. This guy, his entire campaign, his group of white right-wingers and these libertarians that he's backed for Brexit and backed Brexit themselves in the Conservative Party are to blame for the current state of the NHS. Anyway, he continues. The cross-channel arrivals. Oh, isn't that proof that borders can't be controlled? These were already happening when we were in the EU. I'm pretty sure you can find examples of this happening when we're back inside the EU. But the difference was that there were safe routes for this to happen. And they are not, being accommodating to this. They are acting harshly as possible, and people are still coming. Immigration is a really complicated subject to really get into. We don't have time to go into it, unfortunately. But trust me, if you go and look into it, you will find just how in-depth sort of immigration and all this stuff really is. But people like this guy have just used immigration as a cheap get-out-of-jail card to try and solve any problem. And it's now coming back to bite them. So even the filthy rivers are blamed absurdly on Brexit. Yes, because those rivers and the coastlines are directly take aim at those bonfire of EU regulations that you Brexiteers want to get rid of. Many who make these, quote, nonsensical arguments genuinely believe them. Nonsensical arguments? Don't think so, my friend. I've just explained a lot why some of those are. But you continue to believe that, my friend. Believe your fantasy as you may want. And they are convinced that the evidence in this, the case is closed and that Brexit has consultatively been proven to have failed. Yes, it absolutely has. Eurosceptics need to take this new push to overturn Brexit extremely seriously. So again, calling back on Euroscepticism, trying to sort of continue to carry the flag, going, no, we can't. Yeah, you failed. You promised the land of milk and honey after Brexit, but you have not delivered on that. And you daren't tell people your real goal for it was to turn the UK into a libertarian, quote, paradise, getting rid of all those market regulations and just letting capitalism wander about unfettered and free to do as it wills and whims. Then, of course, you can't really tell people that was your true goal, because then people wouldn't have voted for you in 2016. Of course, what about the farmers that you are currently throwing under the bus with all those, quote, fantastic trade deals? What about the fishermen that you are, quote, was so behind and wanted to back, but have continuously thrown under the bus in 2016? Anyway, he continues. The good news is that figures around Liz Truss are well aware that voters are disenchanted, and some feel betrayed by the chaos, in particular by the government's immigration policy. Again, an immigration policy that was meant to solve this problem hasn't. It turns out that these really harsh measures haven't really got to the root of the problem of immigration. Surprise! Who knew? There is a sense in some quarters that Brexiteers haven't delivered on their promises. This must urgently be tackled. It's true. They not only have they not delivered on their promises, they never had any intention of delivering on those promises. The idea for more spending after Brexit was never, ever going to be delivered, as I'm sure we'll be finding here. As a result of the staggering implementation of failures of the past 6 years, again, under your Brexit government, Boris Johnson was the man who was meant to deliver Brexit. We have had a government of Brexiteers ever since Theresa May has come in. Theresa May was meant to be the one who would be delivering Brexit, and you were singing her praises. And I'm sure at some point in the future, they will be singing Liz Truss's praises now, as he currently is, but well, in a few months' time, we'll be damning her for not delivering on the promises of Brexit. As we've said before, Brexit has a way of eating its children like most revolutions do. So, anyway, we continue. So we have so far borne the costs of leaving the EU, the majority of which were the result of a choice by vindictive European protectionists rather than the necessary outcome of leaving. What? We told you what would happen. We said how important European trade was to us. We told you if we leave, we become a third country. We are then subject to the many checks that the UK itself implemented when we were members of the EU. What are you on about? So, while only enjoying, he continues to say, a fraction of the possible benefits, it was stupid not to remove VAT from energy, and the trade deals and GM food changes were great, but insufficient to shift the dial. Bear in mind, VAT is a massive source of government income. They are not stupid enough to remove it, but this is part of the ridiculousness of it, that they believe. There you go. The trade deals, not really that good for the UK if you look at them from an economic point of view. GM food changes, okay, but is that bringing down prices? No, it's not. So Britain needs to diverge radically from EU economic, tax, environmental, energy, and regulatory policies to attract capital, businesses, entrepreneurs, and scientists. Oh my word. So this is all part of the deregulation program, as we have said multiple times. You look at the polls when it comes to regulations. People are overwhelming. I'm doing this quite a bit now because I'm so mad. People are overwhelming in favor of those very regulations you want to get rid of. If you are so serious about wanting to get rid of these regulations, you should be honest with the British people about what it is you want to get rid of. Don't go back into 2016 and lie to them again and again, saying that you are going to protect them. That is not what you are trying to do. You are trying to, by stealth, deregulate and completely get rid of any government intervention in the market. We have said that since the very beginning, and you are right now reinforcing that. You can tell I'm getting quite angry at the moment in this. Anyway, he continues. And the scientists, oh my God, what about the scientist program that the UK government launched, expecting to try and attract all those Nobel Prizes, people who'd won Nobel Prizes, to come and be in the UK? Not one single applicant. What about the fact that you've got people, scientists in the UK, who basically are facing a choice? Either A, they can watch years of research just go down the pan, or they move to Europe and continue to be part of the Horizon program. Yeah, this is so frustrating. So anyway, he continues, we need to do a lot more free trade with non-hostile countries. So basically continue, as we have seen, to sell out UK farmers, businesses, our manufacturing sectors here for what? To little to no gain, as most of those other trade policies, those trade deals that you're so singing about, have done nothing to our economy. So we need to move to more free trade deals with hostile countries to ensure that prices are as low as possible. That's not how trade deals work. That's not how it works. And if you do want those low prices, then you are admitting you want more foreign goods to flow into the UK. That means you do not want British manufacturing, which, again, a lot of people who voted for Brexit said that they wanted the opposite. So again, admitting you weren't honest all the way back to 2016. No prices possible, and a full panoply of Singapore-style measures that Eurosceptics had spent 15 years advocating prior to Brexit must be implemented. As we've said before, they do not want a, quote, true Singapore on the Thames. Because if you go to Singapore, they own something, the government owns like 80 odd percent of all businesses in Singapore. Brexiteers suddenly massively in favor of nationalization? I don't think so. So even then, them trying to sell this as a Singapore-style measures doesn't make sense, because we've looked at Singapore. It's not this paradise that they claim it really is, because they would never implement half the stuff Singapore has over there. So anyway, he continues, we must build the requisite infrastructure to deal with channel blockages and reduce our reliance on French ports. How? When most of your exports are going to Europe, the French ports are the closest ports. You do not just suddenly decide, well, actually, I'm going to go to a different port, because shockingly, to most Brexiteers, and this guy still doesn't understand, it costs money to move things from A to B. Now, that may sound like simple to a lot of people, but trust me, Brexiteers still do not understand basics, and we're talking basics of trade. And this is fun. We should pull out of Joe Biden's corporation tax harmonization plan. No, we shouldn't. That is a very good thing, to be honest. That's very good for Biden to actually call for that. Brexiteers knew there would be costs to leaving their Nike swoosh theory postulated a dip followed by a sharp bounce back. That hasn't happened at all. The former turned out to be lower than many even Eurosceptics even expected, especially when it comes to the city. But for the latter to actually materialize, Truss must deliver the radical pro-growth policies her predecessors refused to implement. So again, calling on Truss to implement these full right-wing libertarian free market policies, which no one wants. Only this tiny group of Brexiteers who forced through Brexit to begin with. Truss will also need to be far better in communications to wage a permanent campaign for Brexit. Again, going back to what Lord Frost says of wanting to wage a permanent Brexit campaign. Anyway, he continues. Not enough has been made of the Australian defence deal. That wasn't a very good deal. If anything, it's actually more annoyed Australia than actually put them in our good graces. It would have been inconceivable while we're an EU member. No, it wouldn't. We could have very easily done that as an EU member. The vaccine purchases were the greatest benefit of Brexit so far. Nope, we could have done that when we were in the EU. Single-handedly, more than cancelling out all of the other costs of leaving the EU. What? We could have done that when we were in the EU. We could theoretically have pursued it while in the EU, but it would have been a, quote, psychologically impossible. And other countries didn't go it alone. Yes, other countries did make purchases, but they decided to buy in bulk so as not to, screw over their other trade fellow partners. Yeah, what? Alliances, helping your fellow countries and partners in fellows in trade. What a shocking revelation that must have been for Brexiteers. So, Remainers are making, quote, endless false or exaggerating claims relating to Britain's economy. Our economy is not good. Not good at all. When one looks at the GDP numbers over several quarters, rather than absurd forecasts or dodgy model-based counterfactuals. So, once again, ignoring all the economic experts and advice that have been said, hey, this is going to be a bit of a problem. The UK, he says, is doing roughly as bad as comparable with big European economies. No, it's not. It's not at all. Germany, easily the quote comparable biggest European economy, is doing far better than us. Far better than us. We don't have the highest inflation in Europe. That's a lie. That's a complete outright lie. We do have the highest inflation in all of Europe. They claim there are outliers on food price. We claim there are outliers on food prices is equally false. No, it's not. That's entirely true. We now have probably some of the highest food prices due to inflation in the UK. And because of trade, that has also raised those food prices. It makes little sense to compare energy price rises. It probably doesn't, but hey, there you go. Anything, to get out of jail free card on those, right? Some countries are fixing prices and subsidizing firms, and others are not, and subsidizing consumers, as we have so far. Again, look at France. France's model for them, they've nationalized their energy industry. They put a cap. Other countries have done similar things. Spain has done, other stuff. They've gone as is in the pandemic. European countries have not only gone further and more faster within helping to try and support their population, and the Conservative government, the Brexiteers in charge currently in the government, have done nothing and will continue to do nothing because they do not want state intervention. So, as to trade, the Remainer tropes are misleading. What do you mean misleading? Trade is down. Trade is going down. The Office for Budget Responsibility has said, hey, trade is down. That's not misleading. It's not a misleading trope. It's true. For all that, Truss is Brexit's last hope. Oh, if Truss is Brexit's last hope, my friend, oh boy. There won't be a fourth chance after Theresa May and Boris Johnson. Continued support for Brexit is correlated with support for the Tories. I'm glad you're admitting that, because Brexit is entirely a Tory, right-wing Tory project, at least. A slide in the latter to a decline in the former. Truss will need to show that Brexit can improve lives, bolster the economy, and fix broken institutions. Fix broken institutions, that had nothing suddenly to do with Brexit. You promised that Brexit would improve lives. It hasn't. We've seen jobs, prices, all sorts of stuff go. We've lost so much. It's not going to improve lives, and it is certainly not bolstering the economy. Not even those trade deals that you were so proud to crow about are adding nothing to our GDP that we have lost from leaving the European Union single market and customs union. So anyway, it continues. It will be absolutely vital to fix the Channel migrant crossings. Again, they are not putting serious chances across. They are not even bothering to even address the serious underlying conditions about that. They're just complaining about migrants. Ooh, why aren't we doing correctly? Well, it must be the migrants' fault. Yeah. Continue beating that drum, my friend. Sooner or later, people will catch on. Maybe it wasn't the migrant faults at all. Maybe it was the Conservative Party after all this time and 12 years of crippling austerity. So, continues, no Tory government can survive this short-term madness, especially when it promised to take back control of our borders. This may require tougher action, including on the European Court of Human Rights. That won't help at all either. Leaving that will just not magically solve the migrant issue at all. The heart and soul of conservatism is at stake. No, it's one part of conservatism is at stake, and it is the right-wing libertarian part of the party. The Remainers and the Neo-Cameroons and other Sunak supporters will try it. So now they're calling Sunak a Remainer, or at least trying to lump him in as a Remainer. Hey, that's not what you all were saying but a few months ago, but hey, who's keeping count? Or at least, who's keeping track? The Sunak supporters will try and regain control of the party, and we're trying to regain control of the party. Were it to be crushed in the next general election. We've tried Brexit. Brexiteer PMs and right-wing solutions, they all failed miserably, they will claim. Yes, they are all failing very much miserably. Brexit has been tried. It has failed. Your Brexiteer PMs have completely failed, and your right-wing libertarian solutions, let's label them correctly, have completely failed. No one wants this massive deregulation, this Singapore-on-Thames style solution that you claim to want. You don't seem to be really advocating for it in policies, because people don't want those solutions. So anyway, it continues with, for years, a central Remainer argument was that we were a basket case, a country in decline, a nostalgic, culturally clapped out disaster zone, plagued by poor food and bad weather. Again, not what people were saying, but make up your Remainer straw man there. Compared to the supposedly thriving powerhouses of Europe and especially Germany. This argument was out of date by the 1980s. Comparatively not. Europe has done incredibly well since the 1980s. Again, harkening back to the Margaret Thatcher revolution and people complaining that Thatcher never completed her revolution, leading into those really neoliberal and especially libertarian ideologies that they thought she was going to go for, but didn't follow through on because no one wanted those policies and ideas. Anyway, it took decades for perception to change in Britain, and we are going back down that road very quickly. Very, very quickly. We will soon become the sick man of Europe once more. It would be a disaster if the electorate were to start to believe once again that the grass is greener in Europe. That's exactly what you were portraying all this time as what Brexit would be. Oh, it would be so much better once we're outside the EU. Look at Brexit, the movie, their pride and joy. I think still available on YouTube, that finishes with the exact line that the grass is indeed greener on outside of Europe. Doesn't seem to be that way. Support for Brexit goes hand in hand with the belief that we can fix our own problems. No, it doesn't. Brexit has got nothing to do with the belief that we can sort of fix our own problems. The problems of our country were never caused by Europe. So that in itself is a complete fallacy. The problems we were facing go back to the 1980s and Margaret Thatcher changing the economy, doing all this neoliberal nonsense that has unleashed capitalism and making people feel a lot worse in these stakes. But there you go. So hopelessness, a sense that all politicians are equally useless and that Britain is doomed, would deal the Brexit dream a mortal blow. Brexit actually has to deliver on its promises, and it hasn't done that. So the more that happens, the more that is Brexit not delivering on its promises. For Britain to be saved, Truss will need to make the most of Brexit. And for Brexit to be saved, she will need to fix broken Britain. God, dare we read the comments? Oh, no, we're not even going to bother reading the comments. But oh my. This has been going on a long time. Yeah. Yeah. This is the Brexiteer desperation on full display. Absolute on full display. They know full well their real aim and true objectives was to deliver this true libertarian paradise, to move away from all these European models, to move away from government intervention, to have no regulation, to have 0% tariffs on all our trade, because that would somehow solve all our problems. Not one thing in there does he speak about the so-called Brexit benefits. And the ones that he does mention, well, we could have done very easily when we were in the EU. This is clearly a gasp of desperation. And just as we said very recently in our last video, Liz Truss, a lot of Tories, especially those ones that he's worried about, are all of a sudden worried, going, yeah, this is not only Brexit's last gasp, it's the last gasp of the crazy right-wing Tories, because we've seen that on display of what what Liz Truss has been spouting, and Rishi Sunak fell into himself during the leadership contest, spouting all this crazy libertarian nonsense that she wants to do. And if you really want to pursue this libertarian agenda of creating a Singapore on the Thames, as you so want to do, then actually start to put forward those policies. Don't try and hide it and try to secretly do it. When you talk about wanting to get rid of regulations, be honest with people about what regulations you want to get rid of, because the people in the UK have seen what happens when you have this bonfire of regulations, especially what has happened with our coastlines being polluted by sewage and riverways polluted by sewage as well for the second year in a row. Brexit has failed. And it isn't on us complaining about it or not believing enough in your precious project, because it wasn't on us to deliver your project. It was on you to deliver your project. This is like a teacher handing out essays and then coming to you and then saying, well, teacher, I haven't written my essay today, even though I was telling you about how wonderful and fantastic and that you were going to give me full marks for completing my essay. You handed in a blank sheet of paper and are now complaining that you are being held behind after class, that you are having to see the teacher, that you've got detention, that you've got no grade whatsoever because there was nothing to mark because you didn't put anything on your sheet of paper. This is no one's fault but your own. And it's about time Brexiteers actually took some responsibility for their own actions. And maybe for once, because I could respect a Brexiteer if they actually came out and started telling the truth. Now, I would completely disagree with their ideas and policies of what they wanted to do, but to be honest, I would be a lot more comfortable arguing with you in that because at least you were being honest. But the fact that Brexiteers, even now, cannot be honest about the type of Brexit they want to do, even now, still trying to repeat the lies of 2016, saying all this stuff still, shocks and should shock a lot of people to the core. Because, as you said here, the idea that, where was it? So yeah, the idea that 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 prices would fall and that real wages would rise, that was a Brexiteer promise. That was a Brexiteer promise. You promised that to the people. We have media of it. We have clips. We can go back and see the archives of what you wrote and what you promised to people would happen. You can't escape it, my friend. You have failed. You have failed so spectacularly in your grand project that you've handed in a blank sheet to your teacher and are now complaining you are not getting like the A-star grade you said you would be able to do. It's quite frankly beyond pathetic. It really is. But there you go. Anyway, it has been a bit of a long one, but I hope you've enjoyed it. Like I say, I got quite angry at this one. But I think you can understand. So as always, thank you very much for watching. Please remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And oh boy, what a video this was. What a video. I'm still angry at this, to be honest. I'm still angry. But anyway, there you go. As always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all